So talk a little about what players will explore once they get to Draenor, or I guess Outland you can call it too, once they pop up the expansion and install it.
So the first thing they're going to do is play a completely new crafted experience just to intro that entire storyline. And that's in Tanan Jungle, and that's where the Dark Portal is on the Draenor side. And so when you come over with the help of Khadgar, you go through an experience there that kind of introduces you to all of the Iron Horde kind of war chiefs that you're going to be fighting along the way. It intros you into the planet and kind of sets up the story, and when you complete the experience, you head off to your garrison to kind of get started and get that whole part of the game moving forward.
Will we see any major changes or new professions?
There are no new professions, but there are definitely major changes to the system as a whole. Probably the biggest thing is that we've integrated the system directly into garrisons. So anyone that's been into professions before will find like a pretty expanded set of things that they can do using the garrison building now. For example, you can know more than 2 professions. It's always been 2 that a player could have. But now you could build a new building in your garrison and actually have the benefits of most of that profession just by owning the building.
So talk a little bit about no new class and no new race. No. Creatively, what went into that decision?
I think on our end, we really felt like that just wasn't something that we needed to do at this time. That's really the way we look at WoW, right? You say, how long do we need to go before we feel like there's a need for a new class or a need for a new race? It's definitely not the type of thing where every expansion we go, okay, well, we've got to do X, Y, and Z. It really has to be kind of a pulse of what we feel like the game needs at that time. And I think we feel pretty happy with the classes that we have across the board. We did a number of changes to make the classes feel pretty fresh. So I think on our side, we just didn't feel like that, it was going, anytime we do that, the game becomes bigger. When we add that class, now we have to maintain that class into perpetuity, right? We can't ever just stop doing it. So I think we have to feel like we have a great reason, a world to support it, and everything, when we're going to add a large feature like that.
Now, WoW's been always a very scalable gaming experience, but now with this graphical update for the character models and the world getting bigger, how are people going to deal with that with their rigs they have at home?
We've actually built new technology into the game specifically to support LODs for those new models. In fact, there's a way you can actually turn those new models completely off if they were to be like a large performance issue for your machine. But built into the game, it dynamically loads the characters based on distance and a bunch of other stuff to make sure that WoW could still run on a pretty wide selection of hardware. Our min specs changed, but very little. And I think that's one of the keys that's helped WoW be successful over time, is that you can really play the game on any machine. My wife plays on a MacBook Air. Right. It's not a machine that was ever designed for gaming, but it runs WoW just fine.
So I'm a big PvPer. Can you talk about what PvPers will get with this expansion?
I can. We built an entire new zone specifically to highlight PvP here called Ashran. And Ashran is really kind of the third in the series of the PvP zones that we've built throughout WoW. We started with Wintergrasp, and then we did Tolbarad, and now we have Ashran. And it's really the concept of building a open world PvP space that could get people to try PvP that might be scared of it. We find a lot of times people think PvP is a very scary thing to jump into. Oh, I'm gonna get ganked right away, I'm gonna get killed. And so by opening it up and filling it with quests and factions, and we do things like little custom events that randomly happen throughout the map, it kind of offers up a different experience. It's not a battleground, right, where you're looking at numbers, there's a timer. The idea is more that you could explore. We wanted to build something that didn't have an overarching game where you win and then you have to re-queue and go again. We wanted it to feel like a place that you could just kind of hang out at and discover things over time. So it's pretty fresh. I think it's going to actually be a really popular part of the new expansion.
So you mentioned you crunched all the numerical numbers down again to do more balanced. How are you dealing with PvP in that regard with resilience and damage to other players?
One of the biggest things we did for PvP, well, there's 2 big things. Number 1, we've added more health. So all characters across the board just have larger health pools, and that helps slow down PvP a little bit, because we found that the PvP gameplay was starting to move too quick for people to really keep up with what was going on. The second big thing we did is we reduced crowd control across the board. So all characters across the game have less access to crowd control abilities. And we just felt like at a certain point PvP was feeling like you're always locked down. You see the red text on the screen that says, you can't do anything right now. And I think, a lot of us play the game, obviously, that work on it. And it's just not a lot of fun to be in a battleground and be locked into a spot and not be able to do something. So those are two of the big places that we attacked PvP.